At the beginning of the story, we see Eva arriving at the airport with her bodyguard. She is the daughter of a prominent politician. At the airport, she meets her boyfriend, Jade, and her friend, Kyle. All of them are heading to Los Cabos for a holiday. They board the flight, and shortly after takeoff, turbulence begins. Everyone assumes it's normal, as it often happens during flights. However, Eva's bodyguard wakes up and looks out the window to see one of the plane's engines burning. The pilot announces that a flock of birds collided with the plane's engine, causing the disturbance. He assures the passengers not to worry, but soon the engine catches fire entirely. The pilot instructs everyone to fasten their seatbelts as the plane starts shaking violently, leaving passengers terrified. Screams echo throughout the plane as a piece of metal pierces through the cabin, letting in strong winds. Luggage starts falling, and some passengers are thrown out of the plane. Shortly after, the entire plane crashes into the Pacific Ocean, resulting in the death of the pilot and many others. The plane's front section is stuck on a rock cliff, while the rear, where Eva, her boyfriend, her friend, and several passengers are, remains intact without water flooding in. Eva initially believes her bodyguard is dead but sees him resurface. They hear her child, Rosa, crying for help along with her grandmother, who are trapped in the water. Eva's bodyguard rescues them and brings them on board. As only a few survivors remain, they hear strange noises outside, which frighten them as they are stranded in the ocean where dangerous creatures could be lurking. Eva's bodyguard calms everyone, explaining that the plane is airlocked, meaning water won't enter quickly. He assures them that a rescue team will soon arrive. Eva suggests trying to reach the surface, but her bodyguard warns that it would be fatal. The flight attendant confirms that the pilot sent a distress signal before the crash, meaning help is on its way. However, there is a shortage of oxygen, with only one cylinder available. Rosa's grandmother reveals that another oxygen cylinder is in the submerged front section of the plane. Eva's bodyguard decides to retrieve it despite the risks. Rosa's grandmother asks him to retrieve her husband's hat, which she wants to keep as a keepsake. The bodyguard dives underwater, retrieves the oxygen cylinder, and finds the hat. He also tries to gather food supplies but is attacked by a shark. Despite the attack, he manages to return to the plane with the oxygen cylinder. However, as he exits the water, a shark pulls him back, leaving the survivors horrified. The remaining survivors move to the rear section where water hasn't yet flooded. Kyle's hand is injured, and Rosa's grandmother, a nurse, helps bandage it. Meanwhile, a helicopter searching for Eva, arranged by her influential father, arrives but fails to spot the submerged plane. Sharks start entering the lower section of the plane, feeding on the bodies there, while others attempt to bring the plane down. Water begins flooding the rear section, forcing the survivors to consider escaping quickly. Rosa recalls from school that sharks dislike bubbles, giving them a potential method of defense. Kyle remembers seeing scuba gear on board, which could help them reach the surface. However, Eva's boyfriend dismisses the plan, believing no one will survive. The survivors locate the scuba gear. Eva decides to venture into the storage area to retrieve more supplies. She encounters an octopus while carrying the equipment back but manages to return safely. Inside the bag are 4 diving suits and masks. Tragically, Eva discovers her boyfriend has died, leaving her devastated. As the plane's front section begins to crack and sink further, Eva insists they must escape immediately. Kyle, who can't swim, is reassured by Eva, who explains how to use a life jacket. They don the jackets and begin their escape. Rosa's grandmother opts to stay behind, fearing she will slow them down. She asks Eva to look after Rosa, which Eva promises to do. As Eva and Rosa dive, they encounter a shark but fend it off using oxygen bubbles as Rosa had suggested. Meanwhile, the flight attendant and Kyle follow, but Kyle is attacked and killed by a shark. The flight attendant reaches Eva and Rosa, and they share the oxygen cylinder to ascend. Eva, running out of oxygen, struggles to find an exit as the plane sinks further. She finally escapes and inflates her life jacket, which helps her float to the surface. However, she loses consciousness due to oxygen depletion. She regains consciousness on the surface, finding no one else nearby. Just then, a helicopter arrives and rescues her, Rosa, and the flight attendant. Eva fulfills her promise to Rosa's grandmother by saving Rosa. Although she lost her boyfriend, friend, and bodyguard, she has no choice but to move forward. The helicopter takes them to safety, and the story concludes. We hope you enjoyed this tale.